Hey, I'm just going to do a quick little review here of Part C for the primary research project. It's due next Thursday at 11:59 p.m. So let me pull up the project here. We'll look at the rubric. And I went over this before we even got out here for our coronation, but it's been a long time, so um, it might be helpful just to kind of look at it again. So under classwork here, we scroll on down to the primary research section here. And there's a link here. It says primary research project instructions / rubric. And there's also a Google Forms refresher if you're working on a survey. There's some sample projects that you can look at. Let's take a look at this. So the write-up itself, I believe, is 900 words. Let's see here. You scroll that, so it says part A, part B. You scroll on down, and there's part C. Yeah. Okay, so this, ignore the due date here. This was the old due date. I'll put April 9th. Is 100 points, and word length, you're looking for at least 900 words minimum. But just a reminder, this is broken up into three parts here. First up is methodology, which is basically just you explaining the method that you use to gather your data. You don't have to answer all the questions listed here, but I want you to be kind of reflective about it in terms of, and just really explaining, here was my project, here was the idea, here's what I set out to explore or find out, and here's how I went about it. And there's some questions here in terms of, to really get into your thinking. So you can use I in this. This is not necessarily a formal paper like the secondary research paper. It's really just you explaining what you did. Why did you choose this method? Why did you choose a survey as opposed to an interview or something else to find out what it was you wanted to find out? What worked, what didn't work, and if things were difficult or hard, talk about that. That's fine. I think that's part of the project here, is just kind of reflecting on your experience doing primary research. What advice would you have for others thinking about using this method to gather data? For example, if you did a survey and you got your data back and you felt like, man, this wasn't a good question, or I should have asked this question, you can include that sort of thing. Maybe you got some feedback that was just people being goofy. You can talk a little bit about that too. And if you were to repeat it, what would you change? But this is setting up the project. How did you go about it? Why did you make certain choices as you set out to explore your topic? Now, the main part of this is your findings and data, and it's going to look different. If you did an interview, it's really just your questions and your interviewee's answers. It says transcribe your full interview in question response format. If you did a survey, go question by question and tell me about your data. And this is really just kind of the facts here. You don't want to draw any conclusions here, because that's part three. So put the facts here. It says for surveys, provide a detailed question by question account of your findings. Charts and graphs are not required, but they might be helpful. Google Forms generates charts, and you can include those in your write-up at this point. If you had open-ended questions, look for commonalities or trends in your results. When I did my survey, I did have some open-ended questions, but I kind of grouped the responses by category, and then that helped me. I guess that kind of helped me talk about responses better. For example, like I asked a question, about, you had the 5 animals, and it's like, which endangered animal would you save? And then I also asked why. Why would you save the panda or the cheetah or the blobfish or whatever? And so then I kind of grouped those responses in terms of, well, people say they'd save this animal because it was cute, because it was important to its ecosystem, and I grouped answers that way. So if you ask open-ended questions in your survey, um, your your answers aren't going to be the same word for word, but you'll probably have similar categories that you can group answers in, and that can help you talk about your data. I'm not sure that too many people are doing an observation. That's kind of tough to do with social distancing, but it says you can organize your data in terms of chronological record, a narrative, a statistical analysis, or a combination of these methods. We talked about one form of observation is like going by time in terms of what happened when minute by minute. There are quite a few folks doing analyses, and for an analysis, I think you just kind of you're trying to stick to the facts, um, but think in terms of how often you notice something. Or it says here you might compare and contrast items that you studied. Um, Provide a description centered around different themes. So, for an analysis, again, try and stick to just the facts, but you might want to focus on a couple different things in what you're analyzing. So once you've got down the facts, then you start to make some conclusions and some inferences, and basically in your conclusions you are telling your reader, what did you learn, what does this data tell you, what conclusions can be made. So what did you learn from your data findings? Did your findings match what you thought you would discover? um, for a survey, that's an easy question to answer. I guess for an interview too, for the analyses, you kind of already know what you expect, but maybe some things popped up that you hadn't thought of that suddenly came to the forefront. Um, were there any prevalent themes or trends that appeared? What conclusions can you make based upon your findings? Were you to conduct further research? What else would you like to find out? And do you think it was successful? And if you don't think it was successful, just say so and explain why. I mean, this is really part of a learning process for a lot of you. Maybe it's the first time you've done primary research, so it's okay if it didn't go well. Just explain why you don't think it went well. Um, but again, you don't have to answer every single question in each category. You are trying to hit that 250 word mark for each section at least. Um, but overall, I'm looking for you to describe your process, tell me what you found out, and tell me what you think that you can learn from the data or information that you gathered. So those are the very broad things that I'm looking for. You do not have to set this paper up in any APA fashion. Just write the things. You can use headings to separate your parts, and there's 25 points here for conventions as well. Of course, try and clean up any grammatical, punctuation, or spelling errors. Try and use academic word choice. Think a little bit about sentence variety so that all your sentences don't go the same. And the writing is easy to follow, organized, and coherent. You're probably going to be jumping from point to point. So think in terms of transition, variety. You don't want to continue to say next over and over, or then, or also. Build in some of those other things, those other transitions that can help you connect the different points. Here's my teacher sample. That was part B and part A. But if you go under this one, and I think we went through a lot of these in class. I think there's an interview. I think there's my example. Um, there's a couple of surveys there as well. So you're welcome to read those. These are some things that we just kind of studied in class. It talks specifically about the different types of primary research. I don't really want that right now. So, hopefully you've got enough to work with there and you can find your way through it. It's a little difficult because I can't be with you in class helping you as you write this thing, but don't hesitate to email me if you need any help, and hopefully by next Thursday you've got something ready to go. But don't wait till the last minute. This is something that you need to find the data like as soon as possible, so then you've got some time to reflect upon it and think about what it means, and then you can do your write up. All right, good luck, guys.